Welcome to Unity of Mesa Online. Your soul is welcome here. I'm Reverend Kathy Kellogg, and today I'm joined with John Groves as our platform assistant, Kenya Cribb as board member of the day, Karen Peifer as meditation facilitator, and our musicians, Cerise, Patron, and Dennis Hubert. We all welcome you here to be with us today as we continue to explore the power of parable. Today we're looking at the Good Samaritan and the question, who is my neighbor? Our affirmation is, I love by practicing the presence of God. Will you say that with me? I love by practicing the presence of God. And I invite you now to join me in opening prayer by gently closing your eyes and taking that breath. And focusing that breath on your heart space. Picture someone or something you love. And allow that love to unfold and embrace. To fill your body. And to move out to embrace that one that you love. To embrace your family of loved ones. To embrace your family of friends. And allowing that love light to move out and to embrace friends in your neighborhood. And your cities and towns, and this nation and the planet. Seeing that love embrace those who are on the front page of the newspapers and those who are on the back. To allow that love to enfold and uplift those people who you will never meet and those who you will be known intimately by. We allow that love to embrace and unfold those names on our prayer list, those who are seeking healing of mind, body, and spirit. We love by practicing that presence of God because that presence of God is nothing but unconditional love. And as we love and are embraced by it, we can turn around and embrace and love others. And knowing this truth, we are blessed. So it is. Amen. And now for our first song.
There are millions of people who are homeless. There are thousands who die every day. There are those who go to bed each night hungry, and some are children they can't afford to wait. There are men and women who fight for freedom, and then others only fight because of hate. I can say that this is not my problem, oh, but then who is gonna stand up for the change? If not me, who will go? Who will change the way of the world? If not now, when will it be? When will we be the change we want to see? If not here, where will it be? If not now, if not here, if not me. Now there are those who strive to make a difference. We spend our lives devoted to the cause. When no one voice can change the future, and one good deed is worth 1,000 that are lost. Gandhi said that you can change the world you live in. If we can be the change we want to see. So who am I to say that I'm just one person? Oh, because the power resides inside of me. If not me, then who will go? Who will change the way of the world? If not now, when will it be? When will we be the change we want to see? If not here, where will it be? If not now, if not here, if not me. Our thoughts create our destiny, and our hopes create our dreams. Our dreams create what we believe, and our words make what we see. What we see. If not me, then who will go? Who will change the way of the world? If not now, when will it be? When will we be the change we want to see? If not here, where will it be? If not now, if not here, if not me. If not now, if not here, if not me. Why not now? Why not here? Why not me? Why not me?
Here are a few things for you to know. On Wednesday, March 31st at 7 p.m., Reverend Kathy will lead an online spiritual communion service designed to fill thought and feeling with a strong realization of the Christ presence. Tune in to this prayer service as preparation for conscious union with Spirit. For Easter Sunday, we are offering 2 services and 3 different ways to watch. At 7 in the morning, we will have our sunrise service out in the garden. And at 10:15, we'll have the service in the sanctuary. These services will not look like what they did a year ago, as we will still follow CDC guidelines with masks and distancing. Registration is highly encouraged, as we'll have limited seating. Registration will open on our website after the service on March 28. We are very excited to welcome you back for the holiday. And for those who are happy to stay at home, we have option number 3. Our services will be available on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, just as they have been throughout this past year. The following Sunday, April 11, we will be online only with special guest Greg Tamblin. Greg weaves together humor, music, stories, and sacred meditation to enlighten and inspire us with a healthy dose of music, laughter, and deep experience of the sacred. Spirit group registration is now open. We are excited this year to offer Transformed in Truth with the Reverend Michael Gott of Unity of Houston. We have 7 groups to choose from, 6 of which will be Zoom meetings. Since we will have and limit each group to no more than 8, please don't delay signing up. Groups will begin the week of April 11. During our time at home this past year, Reverend Judy kept very busy. She went through the training and is now a certified teacher in the art of feminine presence. She will offer her first workshop for women, the art of feminine presence, on March 26. This workshop is designed for women who want to be seen, want to be heard, and want to inspire change in their personal lives, their business lives, and in the world. This will be an in-person event, as will Healing Our Grief. This special workshop with Reverend Judy and Gretchen Bickert is for anyone who has lost a dear one, including a longtime pet, and is still struggling with grief. You can register for all of these events on our website, unityofmesa.org. Click on the Things for You to Know button for quick links to these and other groups and classes. You will also find there further information and access to our virtual fellowship, prayer support, and much more.
Good morning. I am Kenya Cribb, a member of the Board of Trustees. As most of you know, both Reverend Judy and Reverend Kathy are retiring at the end of the year. Judy will be retiring in September of 2021, and Kathy at the end of January 2022. They will be greatly missed. At the same time, we as a spiritual community must plan for the future and move ahead in our ministerial transition. During the current phase of our search, we are inviting people to join a discussion group on March the 28th. The goal is to bring the wisdom of our congregants with their diverse viewpoints into the process. This group will look deeply at who we are as Unity of Mesa, what we do, and identify our shared values, plus have fun connecting with each other. We are inviting those of you who have engaged in church services, in classes, or spirit groups at Unity of Mesa to register on our website for the discussion group. The discussion group will take place on March the 28th from 12 noon until 2 p.m. This will be a Zoom meeting with Gregory Roulard, a Unity Worldwide recommended transition consultant. Group size is limited, so please sign up as soon as you can. For more information and to register, go to our website, unityofmesa.org. Thank you for agreeing to participate in this process. Your financial support of this spiritual community continues to be very important during this time of transition. While we are meeting online, you can support us directly by sending a check or through online giving or using the Give Plus app. All the information on how to give and more can be found on our website. If you are watching on YouTube, just click the link in the description. Now, I invite you to take your gift of love in your hands and say with me our offering blessing. Divine love, flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Spirit of Abundance. Now, let's prepare ourselves for meditation.
Good morning. Today's affirmation I love by practicing the presence of God in everyone. Reminds me of the need for compassion, the need for self-love, self-compassion, and compassion for others. The daily word compassion says, compassion comes naturally to me when I behold the spiritual nature in everyone I meet, offering myself in loving service to those who need my help. I show kindness and understanding, acknowledging that we are all connected. So for today's meditation, just to take a few breaths and really focus your inner thoughts on how we're all connected and how compassion and love is practiced in your life. So just get yourself comfortable. Get yourself seated in your seat, your back somewhat straight, your arms resting comfortably in your lap. Just allow yourself to slowly close your eyes and to just reflect on compassion, where it is in your heart. So take a few deep breaths in and just filling your lungs with the air and exhaling. Just allowing yourself to get into that rhythm of paying attention to your breath, breathing in, breathing out. And just allow yourself to sit quietly and comfortably for the next few minutes and contemplate compassion. Just slowly bring your attention back into the room in which you're sitting. What lessons did you learn from this short meditation? Take that with you through the rest of the service and just be with it, understand it, allow it to integrate into your body, into your soul.
I go to the stillness. I go to the center of my soul. My soul, I stay in the quiet. I breathe in the moment. I rest in the presence of my God. My God within. I go to where I know I am one with it all. I go to where I know I am holy, I am whole. I go to the silence. I go to the stillness. I go to the center of my soul. My soul. I go to that place of peace inside myself, where spirit dwells. I stay in the quiet. I breathe in the moment. I rest in the presence of my God. My God within. My God. My God within.
Thank you. Today we continue our conversation and exploration into the parables of Jesus. And we've talked about how the parables are stories with fictitious people and fictitious events that start out normal, but they have endings that are disquieting, endings that are not quite what we expected and are out of the norm. They're stories that the teller doesn't interpret, doesn't explain the meaning, but waits for the listener to assign meaning to it. John Dominic Crossan, the author of the book, The Power of Parable, wrote that if you teach in parables, you give yourself to interpretation. If you want to tell people what to think, you preach them a sermon. If you tell them a parable, then you're leaving yourself open inevitably to interpretation. Jesus taught in parables. It states this several times throughout the Gospels, which are the first 4 books of the Christian scriptures. For example, in Matthew 13, 34, 35, we read, Jesus told the crowds all these things in parables. Without a parable, he told them nothing. Jesus taught about the kingdom of God and the kingdom of heaven, and he found it instructive to teach it about it in parables. And people gathered around him to hear what he had to say about this kingdom. And there amongst the crowd were those who wanted to test him, maybe to trip him up, to see where his authority truly lay, which this now brings us to the parable of the Good Samaritan. Scribes would come to these gatherings, and scribes were the lawyers of that day, and they would ask Jesus the question, which is the greatest and the first commandment? They wanted to check on Jesus' street creds to see what his credentials were and where he would go with it. The first gospel that was written, Mark, has Jesus answering? Well, the first is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. In the book of Matthew, Jesus says to the lawyer, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. But we're going to work with the one from the Gospel of Luke. Both Matthew and Luke took material from the book of Mark and then expanded on it, depending on what community of believers they were writing for. But Luke in the chapter 10, verse 25 starts, just then a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus said to him, what is written in the law? What do you read there? And the lawyer answered, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said to him, you have given the right answer. Do this, and you will live. But the lawyer just couldn't leave it alone. And wanting to justify himself, he said then to Jesus, and who is my neighbor? Jesus replied, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. And then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend. Jesus looked at the lawyer and said, which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The lawyer answered, the one who showed him mercy. Jesus said to him, go and do likewise. So what does this mean? How do we interpret this? It's a very familiar story, and we would read it and then just go on, yeah, you just stop and take care of people as you go along. And I mean, it's become part of our cultural context, doesn't it? Because we have Good Samaritan laws, and there's Good Samaritan hospitals and organizations with the word Good Samaritan. We think that we know it, and yet we need to dive deeper into it. We need to hear it as those first century ears heard it, and to take that into consideration to get the full blow of this interpretation or the meaning. When it talked about that a man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, you need to know that that road is about 18 miles, and it drops in elevation from 2,575 feet, Jerusalem, to Jericho, which is 864 feet below sea level. So when it said the man went down to Jericho, they really meant it. Now the road was a major traffic way for trading caravans and military personnel and pilgrims going up to Jerusalem to the temple. But it was also an isolated road. It was very desolate terrain. No water, no food, no shelter. So if something happened to you, you were left to the elements. And there were ample places for robbers to hide. And once they robbed you and left you for dead, there was easy access to the desert, so they couldn't get caught. So it was quite the place. And most of the times people never traveled it by themselves. And seeing that parables were interactive, that it would take Jesus maybe an hour or 2 to tell a parable, and having questions being asked and discussions starting and arguments, we can just imagine what the people would have been discussing, what the listeners would have proclaimed, that all the protagonists of this were idiots, that who would travel down a dangerous road to Jericho by themselves? They should have or would have been taking a caravan or being part of it or creating it. That maybe the Samaritan would walk by himself, but certainly not Jews. And if they traveled together, then the Samaritan wouldn't have really had anybody to help. So really the story doesn't make sense at all. But Jesus sat there and let them talk it through, because they would soon discover that the cultural norm in this story would be that they would expect the triad to be a priest, a Levite, and a lay Israelite. Priest, clergy, Levite, second-tier clergy, and then a lay Israelite, which most of them were. But wait a minute, the third one was a Samaritan. You mean the hero of our story gets to be a Samaritan? Wow. Samaritans and Jews were not friendly. For centuries, a tension had been building up between them, because the Samaritans were the Jews that were stayed when the Assyrian army came and occupied northern Israel. A lot of Jews were taken up and away into the Assyrian Empire, but the Jews that stayed married foreigners. So when the Jews came back from the Assyrian Empire, they had very strict rules about not marrying foreigners and told the Sumerians that they would have to give up their spouses and their families. And they said, yeah, like that's not going to happen. And so this estrangement from descendants of the same ancestors had hardened until the first century. It had hardened to ethnic, political, and religious animosity. So you can imagine how they felt when they heard that the hero of the story was a Samaritan. Because, they could excuse the priest and the Levite because there were purification rules and laws that if you wanted to serve at the temple in the rituals and the rites, that you had to be purified. And to touch a dead body meant that you were not purified and you would have to go through the rite and the ritual of purification, which would take you days and you wouldn't be able to perform your duties at the temple. But the story said the man was half dead. So the laws wouldn't apply to this, and they could have stopped, but they passed by. A study was done in 1973 with a number of theological students, and they set up a piece where there is a shabbily dressed person on the side of the road between the two buildings where these students had to go, and they were held late in the last class, and they were going to a class where they were going to be teaching the Good Samaritan. And what they found out was that very few people stopped to help the shabbily dressed man on the side of the road. Something to think about. Anyway, listening to the story and figuring out the priest and the Levite, and thinking about the Samaritan, there was nothing for the listener at that time to connect with. The priest and the Levite were positions of status, which most of these people weren't. And there wasn't a lay Israelite that stopped, which most of them were. But there was a Samaritan, and even the traveler who was Jewish wouldn't have expected the Samaritan to stop and to give him aid. And so some might think that the Good Samaritan parable is an example. This is what you do. This is how you be a neighbor. But it really is a challenge parable because it challenges our values. It invites us to acknowledge the mercy of those that we don't know and maybe those we distrust. The title of the talk I said was Like a Good Neighbor, which then immediately puts you in mind of the jingle of the American insurance company that tells you that they will always be there for you. But they have a relationship with you, perhaps personal, but always forged by monetary transactions. But the Samaritan and the traveler had no relationship, not personally, not culturally. So the question of who is my neighbor? The answer, the one who showed mercy. There was no relationship there except that he stopped and had pity upon him. and showed mercy. And it's interesting, the lawyer couldn't even say it was the Samaritan. He said, the one who showed mercy. Who is my neighbor? March 25th, 2019, McKinley Corbally reported in the Good News Network that the Islamic Society of Mid-Manhattan had a fire in their mosque and were unable to do their afternoon prayer and found themselves without that place of worship. In hearing that, the leadership of the Central Synagogue did not hesitate to welcome them into their own space. They said that over 500 Muslims were welcomed into the pavilion location so that these people could safely use the space for their afternoon prayer. The synagogue said that they were inspired because their sanctuary had burned 20 years before. Think about that. Opening the synagogue for afternoon prayer. Rabbi Angela Buchdahl said that the imam said that this was the holiest moment he had experienced in New York. And she said it's certainly one of ours as well. In June of 2020, in the midst of protests about police brutality, about Black lives being ended by police, white police, where all these things were laying bare the tensions between police and the communities they serve, exposing the grave mistrust by civilians and the frustration by law officers who said they're being painted with too broad a brush. In the midst of this, Dalen McKee, a 31-year-old Black man who had a lawsuit out against Pennsylvania State Police troopers for wrongful arrest, in that he spent a year in jail before his trial came up. And even though he pleaded his innocence, it wasn't until the jury saw the security footage that proved his innocence that he was set free from jail. Wrongful arrest, a year in jail, an innocent man. But on this day in June of 2020, he was in his home, Dalen McLean, and he heard a boom, and he felt the house shake, and he thought maybe there had been an earthquake. But somebody ran past and said that there had been a car accident involving a patrol car. Dalen did not hesitate to run out of the house, to run down and pull a white police officer out of his mangled car right as the flames were beginning to spread in the cabin. Didn't stop and think about it for 1 minute, about his own safety or what it meant during this time of unrest. One of the policemen there at the scene said he heard Dalen say, "I'm not going to let him die." And there's just no words to describe that, with others. He says, we need to work on our humanity. That's the main problem of this world. We're stuck on how to get up or to get even, and that's not how I was raised to be. You learn, you live, you move on. And Dalen said, I was always taught to forgive big. Who is my neighbor? The one who shows mercy, the one who shows compassion, the one who loves. But how will I know? Well, we go back to the very beginning where the lawyers asked Jesus, what was the first and greatest commandment? And Jesus replied, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. So basically, he was reiterating his teaching of seek ye first the kingdom of God and love that kingdom, that God, that Christ consciousness, the realm of divine ideas. Love that place and space within you. Love it with all your heart and your soul and your mind and your strength. Be present to that divine center within. Spend time in that place through meditation, prayer, being out in nature. Allow those divine ideas in that kingdom within you, that realm within you, allow those divine ideas of love and peace and harmony and abundance be the foundation of every thought you entertain. And as those thoughts begin to align with principle and ready to work their way into your outer material expression, don't let the negative thoughts of doubt, fear, and prejudice rob you of their energy and of their vitality. Don't expect the religious traditional values, those that attend to the letter of the law instead of the spirit of law. Do not let them weaken your resolve or expect them to save you, but be willing to be healed by the love within you, to show mercy, to be compassionate. Because once you're securely grounded in that love, you will know who your neighbor is. You will know who your neighbor is because you will recognize the oneness that connects us all. And you will see the face of God in all of those you come upon. Love the Lord your God. Love that place within you, your Christ consciousness. Go to that place of contemplation of pure divinity. And from that, love yourself, love your neighbor, show mercy. Today we affirmed, I love by practicing the presence of God. That's how we make the trip safely. That's how we take the thoughts from Jerusalem into Jericho without any incident. I love by practicing the presence of God. And so it is. Blessings.
How do we measure a soul? Are some worth more than others? If we judge by their covers, are some only half and some whole? Do we weigh all the blessings against all the heartache and woe that take its toll? We are all children of light, children of grace, children of faith. We are all from the same place, made from the same fabric of space. We are all children of love. We're children of God. How do we know who we are when we're told we are broken right from the beginning? And how do we light our own spark when we're there for each other, our sisters and brothers? We heal what kept us apart. We are all children of light, children of grace, children of faith. We are all from the same place, made from the same fabric of space. We are all children of love. We're children of God. Maybe it's time to start all over and learn how to love one another as we love ourselves. How do we get there from here? Let the light that's inside us continue to guide us toward love, and that's enough. We are all children of light, children of grace, children of faith. We are all from the same place, made from the same fabric of space. We are all children of love. We're children of God. We are all children of God.
Thank you. We are all children of love, children of God. Thanks to John and Kenya, Karen, Cerise, and Dennis for being with us today. And thank all of you. And may we enter this week asking that question, who is my neighbor? And answering it by seeing the face of God in everyone we meet. As we affirm that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Blessings.